Okay, so are we ready to dive in? I think we're ready to jump into this Banksy thing today, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be fun. This article that you sent over about all this new Banksy stuff appearing in London, it's got me excited.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see Banksy back in the headlines, you know? It seems like every few months there's some new piece popping up somewhere causing a stir.
It's true. And, it makes you wonder, right? Like, is it all really by the same person? I mean, I know we kind of just assume it is.
I know, right? The mystery just adds to the whole allure, I think. It's like
Yeah.
part of the brand at this point, you know?
Uh-huh.
The anonymity, the sudden appearances, it's all part of the performance, I think.
Yeah, it's like performance art, but on a citywide scale,
Yeah.
right? Using the whole urban landscape as their canvas.
Exactly. It's not just about the art itself. It's about the way it interacts with the environment, the way it makes you think about the space around you.
So let's actually talk about the art itself then. So we've got this article detailing 9 new pieces across London. Let's start with the goat. Okay?
Yeah.
This mountain goat that's like bouncing on this precarious pile of rocks in Kew Gardens.
Oh, yeah. That one's interesting, isn't it? It's such a contrast to have this like wild animal in this perfectly manicured park setting.
Right. Like you don't usually think about the struggles of nature when you're strolling through a peaceful park.
Mm-hmm.
But then there it is, this goat looking all vulnerable and kind of out of place.
It definitely makes you think about the fragility of nature, even in a place that feels protected.
Mm-hmm.
And, Banksy often uses animals in their work to comment on social issues. So there's probably a deeper meaning there, too.
So what are those elephants then? The ones peeking out from the boarded up windows in Chelsea? I thought that was a pretty clever visual pun, like hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, that's a good one. It makes you wonder what's hidden beneath the surface, What's lurking behind those closed doors and facades? Especially in a wealthy area like Chelsea. It's like Banksy's asking us to look beyond the polished exterior and see what's really going on.
It's like they're saying there's more to this place than meets the eye. Which brings us to the Brick Lane monkeys. This one's a bit of a different story since it's already gone.
Yeah, that's the one that got jet washed away, right?
Yep, someone just blasted it off the wall. Apparently they didn't realize it was a Banksy.
Or did they? I mean, who knows? Maybe it was intentional. Part of the whole ephemerality of street art. It's here today, gone tomorrow. But it does raise a lot of questions about ownership and preservation. When does street art become valuable enough to protect? And who gets to decide?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for sure. And I can't help but wonder what Banksy thinks about all this. Do they care if their work gets removed or sold or whatever? Or is that all part of the plan?
We may never know. And I think that's part of the fun of it. But, while we're on the topic of what Banksy might be thinking, let's talk about the pelicans above the fish bar in Walthamstow. I mean, come on, that's got to be a joke, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, pelicans and a fish bar.
Yeah.
It's too perfect. But even with the humor, there's probably some commentary there too. Maybe about our relationship with food or overconsumption or something.
Yeah, you never know with Banksy. There's always a message lurking beneath the surface, even if it's delivered with a wink and a smile.
Now, this next one I thought was really interesting stylistically. Speaking of the lone cat,
Mm-hmm.
On that billboard in Cricklewood. It's so different from the bold silhouettes we've seen so far. It's almost delicate.
Yeah, that one caught my eye too. It's definitely a departure from their usual style, more detailed, more realistic. It makes me think that Banksy might be experimenting with new techniques.
Maybe they're getting bored with stencils and want to try something new. Or maybe just another way to keep us guessing.
Exactly. Always one step ahead. Then you have the pieces that are a bit more pointed, let's say.
You mean like the piranhas attacking the city police box? That one felt pretty direct.
Yeah, that one's definitely a jab at authority, using those piranhas to represent the dangers of unchecked power. And of course, the irony of the police box being the target is not lost, I'm sure.
It's like they're asking who are the real predators here. It's a classic Banksy move, using humor and satire to challenge the status quo. And speaking of challenging the status quo, what about that rhino? The one that looks like it's about to charge a car in Charlton.
Oh, yeah, that one's powerful. The rhino itself is such a symbol of strength and power, but then to have it placed in this ordinary suburban setting, it's unsettling.
Yeah, it's like saying that power can appear anywhere unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder to be vigilant, to pay attention to what's happening around us.
And maybe also a commentary on environmental issues, the rhino being an endangered species and all.
I hadn't even thought about that angle. But it makes sense given Banksy's other work with animals. It's amazing how much these pieces can spark so much thought and discussion.
That's the beauty of art, isn't it? It can be interpreted in so many different ways. And I think that's what Banksy does so well. They create art that's both accessible and thought-provoking. It makes you look twice and then think about it long after you've walked away.
And finally, we have the gorilla freeing the animals from the zoo. That one felt like the most straightforward message of the bunch.
Yeah, that one's pretty clear-cut. A statement about animal rights and the cruelty of captivity. It's interesting, though, that Banksy actually confirmed this piece very quickly, which is unusual for them.
Maybe they felt like the message was too important to let it be shrouded in mystery for too long.
Yeah, perhaps. It's like they were saying this is something we need to talk about now.
So we've gone through all 9 pieces.
Yeah.
Each one with its own unique style and message. But looking at the bigger picture, what do you think Banksy is trying to tell us with this London takeover?
Well, I think there are definitely some recurring themes here. Social justice, animal welfare challenging authority. And there's also this underlying message about paying attention to the world around us, noticing the things we often overlook.
And finding art in unexpected places.
Right.
Like that's a big part of what Banksy does. They turn the city into a gallery and make us rethink the way we see our surroundings.
Exactly. It makes you realize that art doesn't have to be confined to museums and galleries. It can be anywhere, and everyone can be an artist in their own way, you know?
That's a great point. And so for all you listeners out there, what art have you noticed in your everyday life? What's caught your eye? What's made you stop and think?
I think you'd be surprised at what you find if you just take a moment to look around.
And maybe even create some art of your own. You never know, you might be the next Banksy.
Exactly.
All right, well, on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. Until next time.
Thanks for having me.
It's been fun.